Just 1 hour ago, the royal family was thrown into chaos as Dr. Ian McNeill, personal physician to King Charles III, made a shocking public statement. Alone and without palace approval. His brief but explosive words confirmed what Buckingham Palace had long tried to hide. The king's condition is no longer stable. This bombshell, delivered outside Clarence House, has sparked panic, silence, and a storm of unanswered questions. With Prince William stepping forward and Queen Camilla tightening control, the monarchy now stands at its most uncertain crossroads since 1936. The question on everyone's lips: what happens next? The doctor who broke the royal code. At exactly 10:05 a.m. on October 25, 2025, something happened outside Clarence House that shattered over a century of royal protocol. Dr. Ian McNeill, the King's private physician since late 2022, stood alone before the UK press and issued a short, trembling statement. The King's condition has taken a critical turn. His voice was steady, but the air was tight with alarm. No palace spokesperson stood beside him. There was no podium, no royal insignia. It was just McNeill, a handwritten note in his coat pocket, stepping into the void left by silence. Reporters expected the usual royal script. Instead, they got a man breaking ranks. Royal watchers immediately knew something was wrong. Doctors don't speak. Not like this. In royal tradition, health updates come only through tightly vetted press releases, often from Buckingham Palace's communications office or the Lord Chamberlain. But McNeill's statement was raw, unfiltered, and unauthorized. The most stunning line came at the end. This statement may not reflect the official position of the royal household. It was a sentence that sounded almost like a rebellion. A top royal aide, speaking anonymously later that day, called it unprecedented. In that moment, Dr. Ian McNeill did something no physician before him had dared. He told the truth before the crown could spin it. The ripple was immediate. Within 5 minutes, BBC, Sky News, and The Guardian began rolling live coverage. Newsrooms in New York, Toronto, and Sydney activated royal protocol coverage teams. But from the palace? Silence. Nothing from Queen Camilla. Nothing from Prince William. Clarence House phone lines were blocked. The monarchy, so carefully controlled, had just lost its grip. And the nation knew it. Dr. McNeill's bombshell shattered the illusion that everything was under control. But just as shocking as what he said was what he refused to say. The vagueness, the omissions, the deliberate half-light left people reeling and desperate for answers. As journalists and commentators tried to parse each word, they found themselves staring into a void where royal clarity used to exist. The statement raised terrifying possibilities and told us that the truth was being buried deeper than ever before. What Dr. McNeill actually said. Let's break down the few concrete facts that Dr. McNeill did reveal. First, he confirmed that King Charles III had experienced a sudden and concerning decline in immune function. This complication was reportedly a side effect of his ongoing cancer treatment, which the palace first acknowledged in February 2024, though they never disclosed the type or stage. According to McNeill, signs of deterioration began around October 18th, worsened by October 20th, and by the 21st, emergency intervention was required. However, what followed was a masterclass in omission. Dr. McNeill refused to name the type of cancer. He made no mention of a prognosis. He did not deny whether the king was in an ICU, nor did he confirm if the symptoms were life-threatening. Instead, he simply stated, The king is currently receiving intensive support measures. The phrase hung in the air, both clinical and ominous. One line in particular sparked waves of speculation. This may not reflect the official position of the royal household. It strongly hinted at discord within palace walls. Was McNeil defying orders? Was he stepping forward to force transparency? Or worse, was he warning the public that the palace itself was withholding key truths? For the British public, still reeling from memories of how Princess Diana's health and death were mismanaged, this ambiguity triggered immediate distrust. What was left unsaid spoke louder than the few facts delivered. There was no statement of stability, no reassurance, no mention of Queen Camilla's location or actions, no word from Prince William or the councillors of state. The statement felt like a whisper of chaos barely contained. And for a monarchy that thrives on appearance, it was a terrifying silence. The brevity of Dr. McNeil's address created a void, and the palace chose not to fill it. But this wasn't the beginning of the crisis. It was merely the part they couldn't hide anymore. The truth, as it turns out, had been quietly unfolding for nearly 2 years. Behind palace windows and closed-door meetings, the royal family had been managing a medical storm, one that had now burst into public view. The signs were always there. We just weren't meant to see them. The cancer timeline they tried to contain. It began subtly in January 2024, when King Charles cancelled 3 public engagements due to fatigue and routine health matters. At the time, palace aides downplayed the issue, attributing it to the king's age, 75 years old, and a demanding calendar. But insiders now reveal that concerns about the king's prostate had already prompted private scans. These revealed anomalies that led to further testing in February 2024, and a confirmed cancer diagnosis. Yet, the palace said little. The official line was, "A form of cancer unrelated to the prostate," with no additional detail. No stage, no severity, no treatment plan disclosed. Between March and July 2025, Charles appeared sparingly. His photographs were meticulously staged, often seated and always smiling. But eagle-eyed observers noted the change: slimmer frame, tighter eyes, and a recurring absence from key events. In July 2025, the king gave a brief interview stating he felt a lot better. But was that optimism or misdirection? Insiders now say that by then, Charles was undergoing experimental immunotherapy and showing signs of immune system suppression. Aides were instructed to limit his exposure to crowds. Public outings became shorter. But the palace insisted everything was fine. Then came the tipping point, October 2025. Behind closed doors, doctors raised red flags. Charles began missing internal briefings. A planned appearance at a Commonwealth event was scrapped hours before it began. And then, on October 25th, Dr. McNeil stood alone and told the world what the palace refused to say. The king was in critical condition. This wasn't a sudden collapse. It was a slow-motion unraveling the palace had spent nearly 22 months trying to contain. A silent palace. After Dr. McNeil's bombshell at 10:05 a.m. on October 25, 2025, Buckingham Palace entered a state of near-total blackout. For over 6 hours, no official statement was released. Phone calls to the royal press office were redirected or ignored. Social media accounts for Clarence House, Buckingham Palace, and the royal family's official Twitter remained inactive until nearly 4:15 p.m. A silence that screamed louder than words. In the void, panic spread like wildfire. The BBC and Sky News suspended regular programming, opting instead for rolling coverage. International outlets like CNN, CBC, and France 24 broke into global broadcasts. The public wasn't just reacting to the king's condition, it was reacting to the eerie quiet that followed. This wasn't the composed palace the UK had known. It was an institution in freefall. Even seasoned royal correspondents admitted they had no insider updates, a first in their decades-long careers. Outside Windsor Castle and Sandringham Estate, crowds began to form. Many brought flowers, believing a death announcement was imminent. One woman interviewed by The Guardian said tearfully, "It feels like losing the Queen all over again, but worse, because no one is telling us what's going on." The emotional scars of September 2022, when Queen Elizabeth II passed and the palace withheld her true condition for days, were being ripped open once more. Speculation turned darker as the day went on. Was Queen Camilla running the palace's response alone? Was Prince William already assuming more power behind the scenes? Was King Charles already unconscious, or worse? The absence of clear information led to conspiracy theories and fury online. Hashtags like #RoyalCoverUp and #WhereIsTheKing trended for 18 hours straight, while trust in the monarchy's transparency dipped by 12%, according to a Snap YouGov poll taken that evening. In a monarchy built on illusion, the curtain had suddenly collapsed. But as shocking as the silence was, the questions it raised struck even deeper. If the king's health crisis was this severe, why hadn't the public been told earlier? Why were decisions being made behind closed doors while the nation waited in emotional limbo? This wasn't just about royal privacy, it was about power, process, and accountability. And as legal experts began weighing in, it became clear. The king's medical state wasn't just personal anymore. It was a constitutional emergency waiting to unfold. Why this isn't just about health. In the United Kingdom's unwritten constitution, the monarch is not just a symbolic figure. They are a crucial legal and political fixture. The moment King Charles III's health entered critical territory, the question stopped being, will he recover, and became, who's in charge now? According to Section 6 of the Regency Acts, 1937, amended in 1953, if a monarch becomes physically or mentally unfit, a regency may be triggered, placing power into the hands of a designated heir or counselor of state. That list currently includes Prince William, Queen Camilla, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward. But as of October 2025, no official notice had been submitted to Parliament, nor had the Privy Council convened to initiate a formal transition. The chaos stemming from McNeill's statement made one thing clear. The legal mechanisms for a seamless regency were nowhere near being activated, even as the monarchy spiraled toward one. Experts from King's College London began publishing public statements urging the palace to clarify succession steps. Behind the scenes, it's believed that Dr. McNeill's speech may have been a deliberate attempt to push the palace into action. By stating publicly that the king's immune system was in crisis, without palace clearance, McNeill might have forced the issue into the public sphere before it could be suppressed internally. As one unnamed MP told The Times, that doctor may have just thrown the monarchy a constitutional lifeline wrapped in a grenade. The implications are massive. Without clarity on who holds power, government proceedings could face delays. State visits, legislation requiring royal assent, and diplomatic matters are suddenly in limbo. Prime Minister Harriet Brown reportedly requested a private audience with Prince William on the evening of October 25th. marking the first such request, bypassing the king in nearly 70 years. This wasn't just a family emergency. It was the slow collapse of the crown's most essential function, stability. And if that stability was crumbling, who had the authority or the courage to intervene? For years, the monarchy has relied on carefully crafted personas, each figure playing their role with unspoken precision. But now, with the king gravely ill and the palace paralyzed, all eyes turned to someone unexpected. The doctor who spoke out might have shaken the system, but another figure, long quiet and deeply embedded in the heart of royal secrecy, was about to change everything again. The Secret Life of Dr. Ian McNeill. Until October 25, 2025, few outside royal circles even knew Dr. Ian McNeill's name. Appointed quietly in late 2022, he succeeded the retiring Dr. Fiona Marshall, assuming the coveted yet press-averse role of physician to the sovereign. But McNeill wasn't a mere general practitioner. He was a world-renowned oncologist trained at Oxford and previously led immunotherapy research at St. Bartholomew's Hospital. His resume was airtight. His discretion? Impeccable. Until now. In the 2 years since his appointment, McNeill was said to have attended every briefing with Charles's core advisory team. He traveled on all major tours, including the June 2024 state visit to New Zealand, where Charles reportedly experienced a minor episode of fatigue. McNeill's role was to be invisible, a guardian of medical truth, never seen, never quoted. Not once had he made a public statement. Not during Elizabeth's death, not during Camilla's own health rumors in 2023, not even during Charles's initial diagnosis in February 2024. So why now? Why break protocol so dramatically? Insiders suggest McNeill grew increasingly uneasy about palace efforts to downplay the king's condition. One staffer at St. James's Palace claimed McNeill had pushed for greater transparency as early as August 2025, only to be overruled by Camilla's communications team. He felt morally trapped, the source said. They wanted him silent, but the truth was growing louder by the day. McNeill's decision to speak may have been one of professional conscience or strategic defiance. He is said to hold personal respect for William, reportedly briefing him privately at Kensington Palace days before the public address. The fact that he acted alone, without institutional approval, signals a man who may now be seen as either a traitor to the crown or its most courageous guardian. In doing so, McNeill placed not only his career, but the monarchy itself into a new era of exposure. Prince William. As of October 25, 2025, the pressure on Prince William has moved beyond inheritance. It's now practical leadership. Aides at Kensington Palace confirmed William's schedule was immediately overhauled following Dr. Ian McNeill's public announcement. 4 state briefings, including a confidential defense dossier and diplomatic communication with Germany, were shifted directly onto his calendar. He is no longer shadowing the king, he is operating in his stead. Privately, the emotional toll is rising. William cancelled a planned weekend retreat to Anmer Hall and has largely confined himself to Adelaide Cottage. Sources inside the household described him as running on instinct, not rest, waking by 5:30 a.m. and continuing meetings well into the night. With Catherine, still recovering, shouldering domestic duties quietly, the emotional strain is doubled. Polls released by YouGov show a 41% public preference for William assuming more constitutional duties immediately, signaling readiness for transition. Yet William himself remains silent, offering no personal statement. One senior royal aide remarked, He's preparing for the throne, but grieving what it means to take it this way. This is no longer the prince of a decade ago. The loss of his mother, Princess Diana, shaped him. Now, the slow loss of his father is molding him. If a regency is declared, it won't be ceremonial. It will be real, raw, and immediate. Camilla in the shadows. While all eyes turn to William, another figure has become equally pivotal: Queen Camilla. As a designated counselor of state, she holds legal authority to act if King Charles III is deemed unfit. Yet, despite this immense power, Camilla has remained conspicuously out of sight since October 20th, appearing only briefly in a blurred car photo near Highgrove House. Palace insiders suggest Camilla is actively overseeing crisis operations. Reports indicate she's chaired at least 3 emergency strategy meetings with senior communications officers and advisors from Clarence House. But her decision to not appear on camera and to not speak publicly has fueled speculation. Is she preserving the king's dignity or consolidating quiet control before a formal transition? Historical wounds resurface. Camilla's legacy, long haunted by her role in the breakdown of Charles and Diana's marriage, creates unease. Social media hashtags like #NotMyQueen and #WhereIsCamilla have begun trending alongside calls for transparency. And yet, there's subtle strength in her silence. One palace aide defended her, saying, "She's not hiding, she's holding the line," and maybe shielding Charles from the circus. Still, the public perception remains split. Is Camilla the steady hand or the shadow monarch? Public opinion and media frenzy. By October 26th, headlines across BBC, The Guardian, and The Times focused less on the king's health and more on the palace's failure to communicate. The public, already rattled by months of vague updates, now felt betrayed. The unfiltered statement from Dr. McNeil acted as a spotlight, illuminating the silence that had surrounded the monarch's condition for too long. Online, the eruption was immediate. The hashtag King Charles received over 1.4 million posts in 12 hours. Conspiracy theories flourished, some suggesting Charles was already incapacitated. Others believed the palace had orchestrated McNeil's statement to prepare the nation for abdication. Trending threads on X, formerly Twitter, included #WhereIsTheKing, #WilliamStepsUp, and #MonarchyInCrisis. Polling by Ipsos UK showed a 12% drop in public confidence in royal communications, the steepest decline since Prince Andrew's scandal in 2019. Analysts noted a troubling parallel. When silence replaces transparency, distrust fills the void. Journalists and royal commentators split on the issue. Some praised McNeil's honesty. Others condemned the palace's lack of unified response. Veteran royal correspondent Clara Hensley wrote, "This isn't about illness anymore. It's about trust, and they just lost it." The future now hangs by a thread. The monarchy now faces 4 possible paths, each of them monumental. If King Charles recovers, a return to light duties could buy time. If his condition worsens, a formal regency led by William could be declared within weeks. Abdication remains rare, but possible. The final path, death, would plunge the nation into mourning and fast-track succession procedures. Constitutionally, if the monarch is physically or mentally unfit, Parliament can formally appoint councillors of state to assume control. That moment may be days away. Already, palace legal teams are said to be drafting contingency plans. Meanwhile, the impact ripples across the world. State visits, legislation approvals, Privy Council meetings all hang in limbo. The Commonwealth is watching. So are foreign powers. Internally, the royal family is preparing for a storm they cannot fully control. Prince William, the once reluctant heir, is now the monarchy's central pillar. He carries not just titles, but the emotional and political burden of preserving an institution in free fall. And in a way that Britain has not seen since 1936, the crown itself trembles, not just from age or illness, but from a reckoning of transparency, power, and public expectation. Whatever happens next, the monarchy will never be the same. As the sun sets on this historic day, October 27, 2025, the British monarchy stands on the edge of its most precarious moment in over a century. What began with a single doctor's voice has erupted into a global reckoning about power, transparency, and the very future of the crown. For the royal family, this isn't merely about health. This is about survival, emotional, institutional, and symbolic. King Charles III, once thought to be settling into his reign, has now become the epicenter of a constitutional storm. His absence, physical, political, and symbolic, has left a gaping void that no one is quite ready to fill, yet everyone is scrambling to control. Prince William, thrust into the spotlight under unimaginable emotional strain, carries the weight not only of expectation, but of history. He now walks a tightrope once crossed only by Queen Elizabeth II during wartime, and his own mother, Princess Diana, in the court of public opinion. He must lead while grieving, speak while silent, act while absorbing the trauma of watching his father's legacy unravel under public scrutiny. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla's silent maneuvering has placed her under a microscope. Her calm is praised by some and distrusted by others. Is she the stabilizing consort Charles needed, or the last gatekeeper standing between William and the throne? The palace's refusal to speak has only amplified suspicions, casting a long shadow over her role in the unfolding crisis. And then there's the British public, conflicted, grieving, furious, and deeply invested. Polls taken over the past 48 hours show record-low confidence in royal communications and rising curiosity about whether the monarchy can, or should, endure. For every post calling for compassion, another demands accountability. For every voice saying, "Long live the king," another whispers, "Maybe it's time for a republic." Internationally, the response has been no less intense. News outlets across Europe, Australia, and Canada have paused regular coverage to track updates from London. World leaders have offered statements of support, but with growing urgency behind the scenes. In Commonwealth nations especially, where the monarchy's presence is increasingly ceremonial, this moment may prompt real political shifts. And yet, amid all the pressure, a deeper story is unfolding, one of vulnerability. In a palace known for protocol and secrecy, a doctor broke ranks. A son prepared for power in silence. A queen held the center with stillness, not sound. For the first time since Diana's funeral in 1997, the royal family is no longer perceived as untouchable, but as human. Whether King Charles recovers or not, the structure around him has already changed. The machinery of monarchy has begun its shift, gears grinding toward an uncertain new reality. Behind the stone walls of Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, contingency plans are being dusted off. Speeches are being written. Orders are being prepared. But outside those walls, something far more profound is taking shape. The nation is watching, and they are not watching for pageantry. They are watching for truth, for leadership, and for clarity. If they do not get it, the very legitimacy of the crown, so long preserved by tradition and illusion, may fracture beyond repair. This is not just a royal update. This is not just a health scare. This is a defining hour in the life of a nation, and perhaps the beginning of the monarchy's most dramatic transformation since the abdication crisis of 1936.
So now, we wait for a word from William, for a sign from Charles, for a decision from the palace.
Because one way or another, the next statement will shape history.